Oh, okay, now we're getting ready for our final exam note sheet. All right, solving systems by graphing. So remember, when we graph, we have to have it in this form. Y is equal to mx plus b. B is where it touches the y-axis, which means it's the y-intercept, and the m represents the slope. So you always start by plotting the b value first. So in this case, our b is equal to 4, and that's where it will touch the y-axis. Solid dot at 4, and then our slope, the second step, is apply slope from the b value. So we're still here at the b value at positive 4, and this slope tells us to go, so this slope is negative 4 or negative 4 over 1. So we go down 4 over 1. Down 4 over 1, and we're going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. All right, then we graph. Here, let me get my ruler so it's at least fairly straight. Digital rulers, though, are kind of hard to deal with. So remember, once you graph the line, you also have to identify the line. Like you have to show your ID at an airport or other places. You have to identify the line. So the line is this particular line, its identity is y is equal to negative 4x plus 4. All right, we're done with that equation. Now we're going to move on to the second equation. Well, its b value is negative 2. So again, we're going to plot. So the second b value is negative 2. So we're going to put a solid dot at negative 2. The second slope is that invisible negative 1. So down 1 over 1. So from the b value of negative 2, we're going to go down 1 over 1, down 1, right there, down 1 over 1. Then I'm going to go back to the y-axis to make it easier to graph. I'm going to go up 1, back 1. And I'm going to repeat that. And the purpose, sorry about that, in case I made anybody dizzy, I meant to grab the ruler. The purpose of that is just to make it easier, to graph that line. I'm not great with the digital. It really bothers me that I'm not great at this with the digital. Yeah, I missed it by just a tad. Okay, we're going to go ahead and ID that one. I'm going to ID that one over here. So y is equal to negative 1x minus 2. Where they intersect, so you identify the x value first, then you identify the y value next, and then you put it in the solution set notations, coordinate point, x value, y value. Remember, when a system has one solution, the type of system it is a consistent system, and the two lines are independent of each other. All right, so that's how you solve a system by graphing. All right, but now we're still going to do that, but we have to get the equation in both equation in y equals mx plus b form, which means we have to get both of these y's by themselves. So for this top equation, to get the negative y by itself, I'm going to subtract 6x, and when we do that, we're going to insert the subtract 6x next to the equal sign. So we're going to have, almost wrote it again. So what we have left is negative y is equal to negative 6x subtract 2. Well, we want to get the the y by itself. Well, that y has that invisible 1 right there attached to it. So it's attached by multiplication. So to cancel multiplication, we divide. But then we have to divide all the terms by -1. So what we have left is y is equal, well, -6 divided -1 is +6, or 6 over 1. X, -2 divided -1 is +2. So the y value, that's the b value, is +2 on the y-axis, and then the slope tells us to go up 6 over 1, which would probably be about there, but because I don't know for sure, this is when we do the reverse. Instead of going from the b value up 6 over 1, I'm going to have to go down 6, back 1. All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, back 1. And then I'm going to take the ruler. Ooh, I did that. Yeah, see, I would have been way off if I would have been guessing. And then we're going to identify this line. Oh, I'm like, what did I do there? That's just the b value that I wrote right there. That's b. It looked like a 6. All right. So now we're going to shift to this equation. Well, we're going to subtract x. So now what we have is what negative 1y is equal to negative 1x plus 3. Well, to cancel this -1 attached to the y, we have to divide each part by -1. -1 divided -1 cancels. -1 divided -1 is +1, so 1 over 1. X. 3 divided -1, we'll have a subtract 3, or we're going to, the b value will touch at -3, and now that slope tells us to go up 1 over 1. So I'm going to repeatedly do that. And then I'm going to go back to the y-axis, and I'm going to go down 1, back 1, down 1, back 1, and then graph that line and identify it. Well, luckily, where I wrote it just happens to be a great place to identify it, so I don't have to change that. So I went ahead and identified it right there. Now, where they intersect, although I think I was off a tad, we look at the x value first, then we look at the y value, and then in our solution set notation, coordinate points, -1, coordinate point, -1, -4. Again, one solution, so this is a consistent system, and they're two separate lines, so independent. All right. Now we're going to use substitution, the substitution method. So on some of these, it's relatively easy, and this is what I mean. Because we know it's a system, these y's are related to each other. Well, in fact, we'll say those y's equal each other. So if the y's equal to each other, and the y is equal to this, so it's a transitive property. If y is equal to 4x plus 1, and if y is also equal to negative 4x plus 1, then negative 4x plus 1 is equal to positive 4x plus 1. These two will equal each other. All right, So that's what we're going to do. We're going to set, here's a visual way of showing it. We could say 4x plus 1 is equal to y. Well, this same y is equal to negative 4x plus 1. Well, they equal each other, so we can eliminate the middleman. Let me make that a little bit. There we go. All right, so now we're going to focus on the x's. Negative 4x, the negative 4 is smaller than positive 4, so we're going to do the opposite. We're going to add 4x to both sides. Some of you might have said, well, Mrs. Bowe, we didn't even have to do that. Look they both have a plus 1. So let me go ahead and pause right there. A more important or a cool skill to have is when you have two equations set equal to each other, and when the constant values are identical, we know right away that the x value will equal 0. All right, but since I started the process, I'm going to go ahead and finish it. So when we add 4x to this side, I get 8x. Well, there's a plus 1, a plus 1. So then, to get x by itself, we would subtract 1. Look at that. Those zero out. So what we have is 8x is equal to 0. Divide both sides by 8. Yep, x is equal to 0. Now we have to find the y value of this system. So you can just pick either one of those. I'll pick the top one. And in your calculator, just type, or in your brain, we're going to take that x is equal to 0. We're going to put it right there. Well, 4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1. Our y value is equal to 1. So in the solution set notations, our x value is 0. Our y value is 1. And again, one solution, it is consistent. I'm going to abbreviate, and independent. All right. This is still substitution. Oh, this is even easier. We already know what y equals. So guess what? Right away in the solution set, just so you don't forget and later on try to find a y value, we already know the y value. So that's half of the answer. And now we can substitute that negative 4 right there. So we will write 2x subtract 2 times negative 4, because that's the y value. It's equal to 6. Well, negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. We want to get this 2x by itself. So we're going to subtract 8. Now we have 2x is equal 6 subtract 8 is negative 2. To get the x by itself, it has a multiplying 2, so we're going to divide 2. So the x value will equal negative 1. Oh, and I forgot to tell you on the previous one, you do need to double check. This is just a calculator check. You don't need to write it on your paper. So the only equation we have now that we have to check is 2x minus 2y is equal to 6. And again, check your calculator, and when you hit enter, it's going to be 6. So it's 2 times the x is negative 1, so 2 parentheses, negative 1 parentheses, subtract button, 2 parentheses, negative 4 parentheses. Or if you want to do it in your head, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. Negative times negative is positive 8. Though negative 2 plus 8 does equal 6. I'm going to go back up here. So up here, I'll go ahead and pick this solution. So now look at what we have. We have y is equal to 1. So I'm going to put 1 where the y was, -4, parentheses, we're going to put 0. There we go. And then plus 1. Well, -4 times 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Those indeed check out. All right. Elimination method. This is kind of my favorite method. And because it's so visual already. What you do is you focus on the columns of numbers. Or columns of terms is a better way to say that. I apologize. They're kind of slanted because of the negative signs. Well, look at what we have. -9x. So when you look at least if one of the terms already has its opposite number, -9x and +9x, 0 out, that's how we know we're going to add the columns. Well, those cancel out to be 0. Then 7y subtract 1y gives us 6y. 7 subtract 1 gives us 6. So we now have 6y is equal to 6. To get the y by itself, we're going to take that multiplying 6 and then divide it. If we divide one side, we have to divide the other. Well, that 6 did not look very much like a 6. There we go. So our y value is equal to 1. You just choose one of those equations. I'm going to choose the lower one. 9x minus y is equal to -1. Well, we know what our y value is. Our y value is 1, so we don't know our x. So 9x minus 1 is equal, well, they're the same on both sides. So right away, we can just say x is equal to 0. So in our solution set, our x is 0, our y is 1. So this is a consistent and independent system. Now, it would be a good idea to check. So this is, again, you don't have to write this down. This is the calculator check. I'm going to take the top equation, -9, parentheses, whatever the x is 0, parentheses, plus 7, parentheses, the y is 1, parentheses, enter. And your calculator should read 7. And that makes sense. This is 0. That's 7. Add those together, you get 7. All right. Now we have another system. Still doing elimination. Ooh, -6, +7 are not opposites. +20 and +20y and -10y are not opposites. However, 10 goes into 20. So if we multiply this whole row by 2, we'll have our -20. So I'm going to move, on this one, I'm going to do the distributive. The top one, I'm going to keep the same. So 6x plus 20y is equal to 10. 2 times -7x is -14x. 2 times -10y is -20y. 2 times 15 is 30. And now look at, those are opposites. We know we can add the columns. So 6x plus -4x equals -8x. 10 plus 30 is 40. Well, to get this x by itself, we're going to divide both sides by -8. So our x value equals -5. Now we have to find the y value. I'm going to take that top equation, 6x. Remember, we know the x. Oh, I color-coded weirdly. I put the y's in purple. Okay. So this x value, yeah, I was not consistent up there with my, sorry about that. These should have been, I should have done that. So where the x was, we're going to go ahead and insert -5. And then we have plus 20y is equal to 10. Well, 6 times -5 is -30. So to cancel, we want to get this 20y by itself. So to cancel this subtract 30, we're going to add 30. And then -30 plus 30 zeroes out. We have to add 30 to both sides. So now we have 20y is equal to 40. Divide both sides by 20. Our y value is equal to 2. Now go ahead and check the other equation. So -7 times x, our x value is -5, minus 10 times our y value, which is 2, should equal, when you hit enter, the calculator should read positive 15. So -7 times -5 is positive 35. And then -10 times 2 is -20. Look at 35 subtract 20 does equal 15. So that system checks out. All right. Remember, you can pause while you're doing this. And I think I'm going to... Okay, the only thing that I forgot to add, this is one solution. So this is consistent and independent. And then I didn't have a double check. So we have to check the other equation. So -14 times -5. It's just on your calculator. Subtract 20 parentheses 2 parentheses enter. So you're going to type -14 parentheses -5 parentheses subtract 20 parentheses 2 parentheses enter. And when you do that, your calculator should do 30. Or just do this in your head. -14 times -5 is 70. -20 times 2 is -40. And 70 subtract 40 is 30. So we solved it okay. All right, this is the review.